Hi, it's Colleen Schmidt from Divination Counseling Service, here today to take a look at the full moon of October 7th. Well, it's actually October 6th, but it occurs at 11:47:20, 11 o'clock at night, 47, it's almost midnight. So when we do the time adjustment, because it is so late at night, when I go to find my asteroids, for example, I am then going to have to look at the next day, because we got 16 extra hours. We got 12 hours on that because it occurs after midday, and we have 4 hours because of time adjustment. So I keep saying October 7th, but I just want to verify it really is October 6th. It just happens 10 minutes to midnight or something ridiculous like that, less than 15 minutes to midnight. So with that said, I have it set up right now on the Aries point, and I kind of wanted to look at something really interesting. I talked with the last new moon chart about our connections, about how many of us, particularly when it comes to our associations, would go through some changes where we would not be associating maybe as much with some people, as much with other people. If you had changes on the job, then you would obviously be with a different group of people. So there's a lot of different ways we can look at that. However, as the full moon is a reflective period, I thought that I would look at the Uranian aspects to start. So I'm doing an experiment. Hopefully it works out, which means that there'll be a big pause as I change up my broadcast system, what I broadcast with, that software. I'm going to be changing it. So because the cameras are looking at one thing, actually looking at Nova chart wheels, and eventually I want to look at solar fire. I think it's going to work. You won't maybe notice, hopefully it's seamless, because you may not notice the break that I'll have to do in between. So I'm going to give that a shot today. And I'm doing this because I think it's really important that we kind of look at what's going on in the Uranian system. There's a lot of pictures that this full moon is forming that I think are really relevant to what's going on. One of the things that we're going to notice, and I'm going to talk about a few things, just looking at this Aries point, okay? When you look at this Aries point, you'll notice that the south node equals the moon, the north node equals the sun. You'll notice that Jupiter has a small little dot with it, okay? That means it's in aspect. And if you go down here to Poseidon, about a half a degree away is Poseidon. At the same time, it's hitting Neptune. So there's a lot here that we can glean from this. Okay, now I'm going to relay, I do listen to Gary, who is one of the teachers that I listen to his lectures, not real time anymore. Because I just can't. It's too much. I actually break the video up and watch it over a series of mornings. But one of the things that we really want to talk about is that extended theme that I mentioned last time, and then I'll get to what Gary said. When you look at this particular chart with these nodes, the first thing that you have to realize is that the nodes are a huge factor with the sun and moon. Now, if I were to switch to the other Aries point, you'll notice that the south node is now showing up with that sun. The moon is now showing up with the north node. Neptune's in the middle. We'll talk about that. But you still have that half a degree to Poseidon. You still have Jupiter right there. So I want to talk about that a minute. The only thing that I think goes away is the Venus to Ceres. And this can be expenses of parents, like, those people that are dealing with elderly parents, and some of the situations with regards to the expense for their care, especially with what the government's been doing. And this is a Washington, D.C. chart. So I am going to bring that up. Now, when I look at this and we're talking about the sun and the moon and the node and Jupiter and Neptune and Poseidon, I am talking about everybody in the world. So this is a glimpse of what's going on in the Aries point, which is the world at large. So what does that mean? Okay, well, there's a lot of disappointment, disillusion, and watch out for illnesses that are, it just happened to me recently, that are like not obvious. Okay, I'll use myself as an example because what the heck? I found out that though I did not need surgery on my foot, which was a really wonderful thing and a very lucky thing, although I'm still on crutches, as we can see, and probably will be even for the next video. After that, probably, hopefully, just a boot. So I'm thinking, oh, wow, I'm lucky, right? No. Apparently, this has been a really rough year for me. I had a major sinus infection in the spring between March and April. It was major. It was a very bad one. I never use antibiotics, but I had to. And my astrology said that, you know, look out for the systems that are not obvious and things, damages that can be done through them. Okay, so that was in my astrology. I knew that was in the solar return. And sure enough, I will be now having more mouth surgery because it affected my teeth, which I think is not uncommon. And maybe that's the reason why I'm talking about it. So I'll be getting implants or an implant, whatever. I'll find out more about that next week. But the reality is that in my full moon experience, I was happy about my foot, not happy about my teeth. Okay, so there's Neptune, because sinuses very much are a part of Neptune. Teeth, Saturn. Okay, so what are we talking about here? Neptune, Saturn. All right, and is it disappointing? Oh gosh, you have no idea how disappointing that is. I've had so many mouth surgeries, but I am somebody who really, really intends to hold on to their teeth till they're dead. And with that, it means a lot of surgeries to keep these teeth. So, because it's a disease, periodontal disease, affected by sinuses, that is hidden. It's not an obvious. And it doesn't appear obvious in any form. The interesting thing is the Jupiter. So I am hoping that this will be the end of it for a minute, that ultimately I will heal. But is it oppressive? My God. Not being able to walk all summer, part of the spring, and all of the fall has not been fun. Okay, I haven't seen the colors and all of that. I just haven't done a lot because I can't. And so, you know, I'm disappointed. I think that you're all disappointed. This is something that I tell people when I hear people in a bad way. This includes people close to me. They have to realize that all of us are going through things. Not just me, not just them, everybody. Okay, and I know that that isn't consolation to some people, but it really is the truth. Okay, astrology does not lie, unfortunately. It tells us the cold, hard truth. So I wanted to share that because I do believe that health issues are huge. I'm going to be talking about them when I get to the asteroids because there are some health significators in there that, you know, health is still a factor. Jupiter indicates healing, though, and I do believe there's healing. But let's talk about something Gary has brought up. I think of Jupiter also as justice, but justice, as we know, is slow. And I do believe that in light of all that is going on in the world, there will ultimately be justice. I know it sounds like I'm, you know, pie in the sky, but I really do believe that. And the other thing that I really do believe is that the wealthy are getting wealthier. Okay? And therein lies the nodes to the sun and the Jupiter. And how are they getting wealthy is generally going to be through propaganda, gaslighting, Poseidon, and Neptune together. And realize that Poseidon and Neptune together is really, you cannot believe anything. In this country, the president which is just blows my mind, has sent out videos, AI videos, that are not true. And also the fact that they're trying to tell you that the Democrats shut this government down. No, they didn't. If they wanted to change the rules, they could have. They have both the Senate and they have the House. But they also know they're going to lose big time. They're losing in the special elections. They're losing, and the American public is shifting. And I think that they're going to do everything they can, Poseidon to Neptune, to try to convince people otherwise, like lying to them about our, and remember that Hopi was in there, which is prejudices. You know, they're arresting people who are citizens of the United States merely based on the fact that they're Hispanic, okay? And what's really sad is Hispanic people voted for him. Mind-blowing. Again, why people vote against their own self-interest has always been an amazement to me. And somebody pointed out it's because I'm somebody who studies this stuff. I study it because it's a part of my astrology. But I also study it because, my God, it's our lives, people. Okay? We live in this world. And so I can't understand why other people don't know what I know. And a lot of people do. Okay, I only speak to people who do, let's be honest. I'm one of the 81% of Democrats that doesn't look very fondly at Republicans at all. If you voted that way, it's not likely that you're in my sphere. Okay, I'm very limited that way. And I know that's wrong, and I don't advise it. But it's very hard for me to respect people who voted against my rights. And that's just the way it is. And they did vote against my rights because I'm a woman. And so realize that 60% of DEI appointments were to the benefit of women. Okay? Realize that a woman doesn't have, not only does she not have autonomy over her own body when it comes to childbirth, but there's not even women's health. I mean, what we know about women's health, you could probably put in a thimble, okay? So we really have a problem here. And for somebody to vote against that is very difficult for me, okay? Just putting it out there. So off of that, looking at these planets and trying to now take this perspective and how do we apply it personally, okay, is going to be interesting, because I really do feel that I'm not alone. That I know that we all have MAGA relatives and we have MAGA associates, but how many of us are spending time with them? That's just a question, okay? And this goes for like situations at work, okay? Because we have like a patriarchal situation here. And it makes me wonder, like, if you work for a big organization, how do they deal with that patriarchy? Because right now they're pushing that patriarchy down our throats. And I don't think it matters where you live. I think that this last hurrah of white man rule, and I do mean man, I think is something that's making us all look and wake up. And so that whole woke culture will become a bigger deal. Okay, so look at your associates and who you're hanging around with. And how does that affect your thinking? And I'm not just talking about politics now. Now I'm talking about toxic friendships, toxic relationships, okay? In a world where there's so much coming at us daily, regularly, okay? How hard is it to be around somebody who is negative? And I mean it on any level, okay? It's really hard. And all I'm going to suggest to you is what we should be looking at is social media, okay? Poseidon to Neptune. I just actually heard an article about they are increasing our divisions. Yes, we're allowing it though. Okay, there's that Sun, Neptune, okay? We, the people, are allowing it because we're going on social media. And the interesting thing was that while the story was playing, My significant other, who was really actually at one point really huge on Facebook, admits he's really not going on anymore. I myself have not posted in months and probably won't. And when I go on, it's only early morning, and I'll be really honest with you, it's only specifically one of my friends, Heather Cox Richardson. So in other words, I'm not really kind of doing the doom scrolling thing on Facebook. I don't even do it on the news headlines anymore because I don't know how much I can trust. There's so much out there that's not, they're lying, okay? I mean, simply put, Poseidon Neptune is everywhere. And that is something we all need to be aware of because our mental health is critical to what we're going through. And I don't think there's anyone out there that would disagree with me. That it's really important that we do things that, and be with people who make us feel better in who we are. So just looking at that, okay, I just really need us to do that. Now, the other thing I want to look at here is that if you go to, okay, how did I do this? I'm going to do that because I'm going to go to some things here that I have written down, all right? This is the family, the organization, okay? And you see, I see, I did a little bit wrong. Look at how Venus and Apollon are together. Okay, so is Saturn and the node. Okay, so just first look at this picture because I think this is incredible. If I just go to Venus, which is our money, and by the way, Venus is in there, then we look at business, the money. Okay, so businesses are making money, right? But the people are not. And how is politics playing into our emotions? See how you make a story? And how is it affecting our environment? Okay. That's everybody. I didn't use the midheaven or the ascendant in this. Okay. So you've got Admetus to the family. So people are stuck. They're not able to do things. But I'll be darned if business isn't making money. And so are the leaders. Okay? Boy, they say it a lot all over the place that we, the people, okay, are many more than these people, okay? And we have to learn to stand up. Because particularly in this country, we have a South Node Pluto in the second house. We, the people, are subject to the wealthy making money off of our backs. Please note that. I have always raised my daughter and the girls when I was training dancers to always look at work as something they love, because then it won't be work. Not to look at it as the paycheck or working for the man. Because this is what happens when you work for the man. You come off with little, you the family, while they are making money. Okay? So now let's go to this. And I'm just going to be brutal in this thing here. Look at the sun-moon axis. It equals Venus Apollon. And you say, well, that's really good. Not really. It's friendship. It's faithfulness. It's harmony with many and peace. Okay? As a matter of fact, let me give you a little bit more on that because I wrote it. It's peaceful and friendly manners. And this is, again, what people are trying to do. And I do believe they are. Okay? Trying to be nice. I'm nice. I'm going to be nice no matter who you are. It doesn't mean I'm going to hang out with you on Saturday night, but I'm not going to be mean to you. Why would I do that? Okay? Regardless of who you are or what you believe in, ideology. Okay? It's about making peace. And I do believe that one of the things that would help us most of all is the ability to make peace. My daughter was upset because she actually heard that the Democrats were dangerous. And I said, what, with all our guns? I mean, again, what a ridiculous statement. So in order to kind of fight back against that Neptune Poseidon I talk so strongly about, it's really up to us to be nice. Okay? So if the person won't allow it, if they have an attitude like the person my daughter was referring to, then stay away. Just don't have anything to do with them. That's always been my attitude. So when I was here and I was looking at this, one of the things that we're taught to look for is these openings, okay? And the irony is that between Volcanus and Uranus, there's an equal arc opening during the Sun-Moon opposition. To me, this means that there's a lot of pressure to change. There's a lot of pressure to get our freedom, okay? So this is, Volcanus is that pressure, it's that push, but it's really for change. And I really believe that this would be the Jupiter too, that this could be the healing. And Jupiter is healing, so it could be to our benefit. Okay, so let me move on because I did do a lot of notes on this. Okay, it also refers to the arts and sciences. Now, what's really interesting about all of this is, and I'm so absorbed in the zeitgeist, so of course I'm political because of that, but realize that one of the things I've been praying for is distraction. And my bigger thing in life, bigger than politics, would be astrology. Of course, that's why I study politics. But astrology is, to me, a big distraction. So I've begun working on a lecture that I'm probably not doing till next year, but I have all the information, and I started pulling things together, and I'm going to start working on it. It takes me a long time to do a lecture anyway, because all the slides, get your information, your notes. The work I do is tedious because of the asteroids, so it takes me a long time. So look for distractions. If you're an artist, paint, draw. If you're a musician, get back to your music. If you're a scientist, go to your science. So know that that's one of the outlets that we get through this full moon, and we want to make sure that we use it. Okay. It's also, there was something else I'm going to show here. Let me get to it. I'm not going to do it right now. Well, yeah, I should. Okay, look at our ascendant. Let me do something here, because I can, and I can do this. Okay, so here we have Washington, D.C. chart in pi form. Okay, and this is interesting because I don't use Nova Pi, Pizza Pi charts much because they don't have the extra ring. Solar Fire does. However, come on, Gary, he's bringing out the new Solar Fire, which will have this program kind of inside of that program, and then I might have it all. So I'm looking forward to that. But what I want to do is I want to draw your attention to the ascendant of the United States. Now, this is the United States ascendant, so it's not going to affect you depending on where you live. It could be on another angle, depending. But I want to show it here in light of some of the things that has just happened, namely the going before the generals, okay, which was really stupid, but I don't even want to get into it. What we see here, okay, is Hades and Kronos. Hades is right off that ascendant, which means that it's poverty, it's deterioration, it's bacteria. So it's ironic because it's affecting me directly because that's what's causing my problem. And by the way, it was a Hades Kronos. I do have to deal with the doctor, which is one of the only good forms of Hades Kronos there is. Okay, so good time to see your doctor. With Hades Kronos, realize on the ascendant of the United States chart that we're going to see a lot of bad decisions made by people in authoritative roles. Okay, I think that meeting was a really bad decision. I think with Saturn, even though it's in retrograde, and it is also referring to things of the past, on here at the midheaven to the Kronos and the Hades. Now remember, they're not in aspect in terms of astrology, but they are in aspect in this particular chart. Does mean that a system could be a problem for some of these bad decisions, okay? And so we have to wait and see what that is. In other words, there's restrictions on it. So we'll just have to wait and see at this point. I believe that some of the press from the bad decision with the military did not turn out well, okay? So that's just one example. I again, realized that even health decisions could relate to restrictions too. So it goes both ways, or the ends of something, or it's taking care of something. So just realize that. But one of the things that Hades does bring about is poverty. And one of the things that's happening with a government shutdown, by the way, bad government decisions. I don't think it's a bad decision. I think that the Republicans' inability to negotiate is a bad decision. I think the Republicans taking away our health care is a bad decision, which is why the Democrats had to shut the government down. Again, they didn't have to do it that way. That was a Republican choice. So as we go on, I'm going to just go through these down here. Okay, here we go. So just going back to, I do want to point this out, that you know that Saturn and Venus, we just got done talking poverty. We just got done talking about how the families are hurting. Well, Saturn, Venus at the IC to the Saturn on the midheaven is an opposition, even though they are 6 degrees apart. Well, a little less, but that's not really an orb if it were a traditional, but considering it's on the angles, here we go again. It is watch your money. Money is tightening. Things are getting worse for the family. Just what I just got done saying in the 360 dial. Okay, because even though it's 7 degrees out and it's still far from all of our good stuff over here and here and here, these, because they fall on the angle of the chart for Washington, D.C., means they directly apply particularly to the United States. Now, mostly it's going to affect those of us on the East Coast. Okay, so it is what it is. So I had to show you that. Again, I'm going to show you what I see. This is what it is. Okay, so let's go to that ascendant. All right, and here's a couple things. First of all, notice that the ascendant is also in the axis of the moon and the sun. Okay, so the rest of the world is going to be feeling what we are all going to be going through. Okay, again, it's forcing change, and it will force change. And that's why people like me, other astrologers, psychics, all know, even historians, because I listen to historians and they're not psychics, but they too, this is not sustainable. What we're going through is not sustainable. Okay, we don't live in 1935 Germany. There's not only 66 million people, there's 341 million people, not 66. Okay, so I think that when you look at that, also we're living in the 21st century. Women have been equal or not really, they've never gotten caught up with pay, but women have been in the workforce for decades. So women have had the right to vote for over 100 years. So I think that what these people want, that ship sailed. It sailed, it sank, and it's in decomp. Okay, so I don't think that's hate. It's gone. Okay, so I think that this is not sustainable. But what's really interesting is what is not being said with Mercury Saturn. what is not being said, especially when it comes to politics. What is it they are not saying? When it comes to money, we're not being told the truth about the economy. And it's funny how many stories I have to first hear from people out of this country than in it. So we're not being told things. And that is a reality, okay? And that is on the ascendant, affecting the sun and the moon, meaning everybody, because the full moon is everybody. So as we continue to look at this, it also, I wanted to look at something. So you noted the Saturn Mercury, as we said, is one aspect of what's going on here. Okay? And it's thoughts of separation. And I actually wrote that down too, that it's deliberating, reflecting on something. It's kind of reflecting in order to come up with the competence to form an opinion or to pass judgment. I think that's our generals. I know they weren't happy. So my feeling is that they are right now in that deliberation, okay? But I don't think that they're the only ones. I think that as people, we're in deliberation, and that we are thinking about our lives, our environments, and again, that pressure to change. It's funny because, some people, and not so much anymore, but people are always like, we got to go back to the way it was. We got to go back. No, we don't. That's how we ended up here. We always have to remember that. And that's whether you're here in your personal life, knowing that you have to make differences, changes, or whether it's your professional life. You're here because you did things the same old, same old. You're being pressured to change. I'm being pressured to change. My whole life is transforming. I'm like this radical person. I have like every day scheduled up. I'm incredibly disciplined, but maybe to my own disadvantage. Because as somebody said to me, what I'm going through right now and what I've been going through for months has been liberating for me. I didn't think about it too much, but actually it really is, because I can't do things. So there are so many things I can't do, and because I can't do them, I'm doing other things. Or I am streaming television shows like crazy. I've never done that. That's good for me, I think, because that is a distraction that I've been praying for too, that I'm not listening to what's going on in the real world. I'm watching dark soap operas. And I'm literally meaning that. I'm addicted. So I think that that's something that for me, for everybody, that you really want to do for yourself. You really want to look at that. And how, in many ways, have we been deluded, okay? But, the nice thing about Poseidon and Neptune, and I'm going to give it to you because I really feel that we should work on this. It's compassion. And I know many people who are right now praying for both Ukraine and for Palestine. The compassion for what those people are going through is something that should have all of our attention. So use your energies wisely, okay? Then, and that was the, what else did I see here? Yeah, that was just speaking with the dead. Admetus midheaven. It's interesting. This is perseverance here. Okay, this is again perseverance to be really deliberate. Because I think I did Admetus. No, it's Admetus. So, but yeah, it's Mercury. So Mercury is our speech, our communication. But Admetus to Saturn is there are things that we're just not saying. Okay, maybe because what we're going through is a standstill of a duration that seems like it's been lasting a long time. It's a little bit depressing. So again, we're a little depressed. And the interesting thing about this is that I looked up that, which is, the speaking, but when I look it up, it's it's deep internal change that's coming and commencing on very slowly. It's, it's like gradually things are happening with that. And so this is going to be true whether it's with your connections, okay, because they're the nodes, all right? You got to look at this stuff. Or whether it's your partnerships, maybe feeling that in some partnerships you're not getting the truth. We have a lot to look at there. Okay. And again, we go back to, I always like to look at, you got to remain firm. Slow thinking. Remember, it's deliberate. We're really deliberate right now. And well, also because in this country, they'll shut you down, like they'll go after you. And so that's why a lot of the people who are working on the YouTube channels are using code or speaking in a way that they won't pick up algorithms. So, bear this in mind. This is definitely something to look at. But I like to look at, and I don't know why I do this, but I do. I wanted to look at what does, and notice that the ascendant's in there. And notice also these, it's politicians, but it's also people who are, I want to say enablers, okay? People who say just what you want to hear. I mean, can you believe that? No. And this will be true particularly as it relates to work or things at a distance. It's like people are manipulative. Now, with all that Saturn, Mercury and things, we have the ability to really sort this out in our own minds. But I always like to look at if there are any good aspects coming from the Sun Apollon, because that's, success, all right? But with Zeus there, it's really our work, and it's alternative. So we're looking for alternative ways in which, we can be successful. This can be things like striving for a goal with great diligence. And remember all that Admetus that I showed you, that's perseverance. That's like sticking with it. It can be technical leadership, which, by the way, the tech guys are the only guys making money right now, just so you know. But it also for us is talking about alternative. This could be alternative ways of dealing with technology. It could be alternative ways of even looking at or thinking about technology, thinking about, and somebody said this, and I can't remember who it was, but I listen to a lot of podcasts, that one of the things that we might want to do, and this is for everybody, no matter where you are in the world, but particularly for Americans, look for jobs outside the country. No, you don't have to go live there. I actually know several people doing this and never really thought about it, as I actually have worked with people outside the country on a number of occasions as an astrologer. So I never thought about it. I mean, with the internet, the world has become smaller. And with that said, I have a friend who works here in Pennsylvania, literally in my town, who works in California. But he doesn't work in California. He works here, but he works for California, okay, somewhere in California. So I have relatives who work with people in Turkey. I have somebody who works with somebody in Dubai. And so one of the things that she was talking about was start going outside the country, particularly for remote work. They'll hire you. Okay? When things are starting to get dire, and they are, and you're somewhat tech savvy, and certain occupations kind of lean that way anyway. Like I wouldn't probably know anything about computers if I wasn't an astrologer. And boy, I do know pretty much. I get yelled at by my ex-husband, who is a computer person, because I do things like go out on the hard drive and do stuff. And it's all because of tweaking programs that I learned how to do this. And I really feel that for a lot of us that we should start looking at machinery in an alternative way. Strive for something different, okay? Then, all right, let me move on. Okay, Okay, so I don't want to look at this too much longer. I want to get into the asteroids where I'm going to do the sun moon axis as well as the Aries point axis. But I did want to talk a little bit about the Iranian pictures, which are so very interesting. And particularly as we look at the Aries point with that Jupiter, the south node, north node thing, and what does that mean, really? Because things are rough, and how could Jupiter be there? But I just don't want us to forget that Jupiter is an expansion, and it's healing. And it's also justice. But it takes a while. And so, it will come. And maybe that's one of the things we need to push for is more justice. So I'm going to switch up my programs. Hopefully I do it okay. Surprising, it went easier than I anticipated. So now we look at the solar fire chart. You're probably all thinking I'd rather look at the pizza pie of the other program, and I would agree with you that that might not be a bad idea. But I really like to talk about my asteroids because to me, I'm just addicted to them. Okay, so let's go around the chart like we normally do, and I'm going to talk about the chart a little bit more than normal, in that I really want to talk about the fact that chaos, which is affecting our well-being, how we need help and get help and give help at the final hours when the people really need it, in pieces, okay? And this can even be helping siblings, so getting help with siblings. In my case, it could be, teeth, feet, those pieces, okay? Hades is the deterioration, the destruction of bad decisions, but it's also dealing with medical professionals because there's no higher chronos in medicine, which is Hades, which is the study of disease. Okay, and then up here we see Hopi, and this is where, and then the Saturn, which to me, Node is up there too, which means that I'm really hoping that something comes down, or I did read a lot of stuff today about cases where they are just picking up Hispanic people, and some of these people have real ID. Let me tell you a secret, I don't even have real ID, okay? Real ID in Pennsylvania is like they make you jump through hoops. And I about had everything together, and I just realized I'm not going to fly. So I don't care anymore. No one in this house has a real ID, okay? We don't get picked up because we're whiter than white, but the reality is that if we were Hispanic, we would get picked up. And then we'd have to prove that we were actually born here. And what's interesting is they are picking up people who were literally born here. They have real IDs, which means they had to show a birth certificate. Okay, so wow, it's right there on the midheaven. Makes me think, ooh, what's going to happen with Saturn there? I think there's lawsuits coming, baby, lawsuits. And there's that Jupiter again. Okay, as a matter of fact, I know there is, because what I was reading about is how these people are going to go after the government because they're literally being affected in their jobs. They're being affected. The girl that was thrown down on the floor, she's a citizen of the United States, and they're treating her like this. I don't think that's going to wash well. So just between you and me. Okay, so moving on, the 14 degree, this one doesn't have as much. We're questioning our partnerships. We're questioning what's happening with other people, but it's because of photographs. See, one of the things we got to do is question these photographs because these AI things are everywhere. Like when they're trying to tell you that certain cities like Portland, Oregon is really bad, what they're showing you is something that happened years ago. They're not real, okay? And they're not real time. And so this is something we need to question. But think of it this way. It's only meaning that we, the people, need to question everything that we see, in a sense. Astrea does show up, that's eyes, what we see. So we'll get to that. But the reality is that, we got to question things because of AI, what we're seeing is not real. They are lying to us, as I've said. And they're lying in ways that is extremely Machiavellian. And by the way, Machiavellian is in our asteroids for today. So I wanted to look at that. If you come down here to the IC, which is our personal, okay, we got South Node with Venus. Money, our worth, our value, the value of the dollar, period, okay? And it's also talking about Cupido to Minerva, which is, again, what we're seeing in politics, what we see, and then this enabling, okay? So, it's, and I think we're going to be surprised, and I think we are surprised by the depths of how this will all go. But I like that Saturn's on top of all this, okay? So you got the questions of there's the bully, here we go again, okay, in the house, okay? So this can be our personal lives if you're dealing with bullies. I just have a grumpy bear. We don't really live with, we call him a grump, but not a bully. So, you got to put these things in perspective. But anyway, when you're looking at this kind of thing, then, if it's in your house, there's this whole attitude of, oh, here we go again, okay? And I do believe we're still looking at the eclipses in all of this, okay? Sort of like my household saying when I had to go back on crutches, oh, here we go again, you see. So, there's going to be that in the small scale as well as, what they call it, the micro as well as the macro, okay? So just look for that. Now, that's mostly DC, East Coast, okay? But I wanted to do it because I wanted to finish out the chart since I started the pizza pie chart in the last thing. The only thing I do want to mention here, which is, is that you might be able to predict what's going on because our intuitions are on, but you cannot predict how things will turn out. I use this phrase in my house a lot when people get really frustrated by what's going on, whether it's with my daughter's job or with politics or whatever. Think of those football games that are won in the last 15 seconds. And I've seen several already this year that just turned around. Very end of the game, it turns around. Last 2 minutes, it turns around. And the comeback. You're never going to know how things are going to turn out, guys. You just can't predict it. I almost want to say don't try, okay? But it also means if you're a sports fan and you're looking at your favorite sports team, good possibilities for a turnaround. It's just in the cards. So that's really good. So I'm going to move to the dial, and I did a lot of dial work on the last, so I'm not going to worry as much about what's there, okay? I think that I kind of explained a lot of it. So here we go, 230. See that Pythia? It's right in the Aries point too, which is the other, Pythia. Pythia is this asteroid, and it really does refer to, hey, your intuition's on, but I'm not so sure you get it. Now, be careful what you say with the Sun Mercury, and maybe this is why we need to be more discerning, and the Moon Mercury, about what you hear, because I'm not always sure it's true, and it does leave you open to Alicia, which is stupid mistakes that you make, like that are self-destructive. So be really careful, guys, about what is said, okay? And that should probably go for me. So as we move, this is the axis I'll look at first, which is the one I did in pen. Child. Okay, there's going to be a highlight on children. What's really interesting is how much publicity the Charlie Kirk assassination got And the children who were killed 1 minute later got nothing. That just blows my mind. But I think that there's going to be more about that. I think that Champ is like, here we go again with self-destructive, like that, Alicia, but also, placing blame. Champ, you're just going to be humiliated in some situations. I'm humiliated because of a risk I took. Okay? Risks, when you take risks, be careful they're not humiliating. I can tell you that mine was. Bonding with others, okay? Now, this is interesting because ditto comes with this. And a lot of times it's like you're only going to be associating with others who are very like-minded. I don't think that's so bad, but just be careful that the ditto does not relate to, okay, I'm not associating with these kinds of people anymore. I'm going to only associate with these people. And then you find out, wow, there's not much of a difference. That one is just like the other. Okay, so just beware of that. That stuff's at 0 degrees up there at the top of the dial. Blarney is the reason why Pythia, okay? Blarney is running with Pythia. Remember I said to you, it's the turnaround. It's not going to be what you think. Okay, part of the reason why that is because of the lies, the Blarney, the BS, okay? So, that's going to be really important in all of this. And I also think lies are a risk because especially in this day and age, lies are going to be found out. They really are. I think that we, over the next period of time, I'm not going to say how long, it's going to be a little while, the amount of truth that comes out to us about what's been going on, it's going to be shocking. Apollo is talking about the slow learner. People who learn slowly. I just mentioned this. Why do people vote against their own self-interest? Why do you work at a place where you know that they treat women like crap? Or why? So there's all these slow learner things. This is part of what needs to change. We need to transform because we keep stepping in the same crap. Okay? So whether it's our personal lives or it's our professional life, think about people who talk all the time and then think about how the fact that half of what they're saying doesn't mean anything. It has no value. That's Ornamenta Ballstrom. Ballstrom is the person who just incessantly speaks. Ornamenta says that maybe what they're saying not only does it not make sense, they're just talking to talk. So, the next one affects me personally, which is Kitty. Now, it's not like an asteroid that has like profound meaning, but we have to worry about people who are dropping off pregnant cats at another remote property, and that we have to get those cats fixed. So Kitty has really applied to me. It might apply to you, so look out for your kitties. I love animals. We have a house full of them, and and I really need those kitties to be taken care of. That's just how I look at it. Then we come down to, it's interesting because the word is villain. Okay? Villain. What's the villain? Who is the villain? Is it the fact that we took a risk and are stupid and it showed up? Or is it something else that caused us to make that decision in the first place? So it's interesting because look, or it's the lies. The lies are very villainous. Okay? It's also Machiavellian, which I told you would show up. Okay? All bringing about Schlacht, which is, again, humiliation. And boy, there's a lot of that. Okay? Wiles. There's so much between Machiavellian, the lies, the villain, the Schlacht, even the Sphinx, because we're questioning it. And that's only out of the Sphinx was on our descendant, but it's also only out of the Aries point by 2 minutes. Okay, which means it's for some people in. And basically what it's going to be is that that it really looks like wiles. It's a wily situation, people. It's a wily situation. And again, I do believe the truth will come out eventually. It's also the humiliation or the self-destruction because of money. So there's Alicia again. There's Duke. There's your money. Okay? And so these things all go together. So money is a factor in a lot of things. And a lot of what's happening is we're being ripped off. People in general are being ripped off. And I don't think it matters where you live. And it says that Peyo is running with hubris, which is running with Savo, which is running with lie. Okay? And I think that because of hubris, which is the fates, the karma of it, the hubris of the pay, okay, is that you got to save your money because of the lies. Or that people are lying about the amount of money that is being saved in certain arenas. In other words, we're just not going to know until that karma really comes out. But look at that in terms of yourself. Peyo is what you're owed. It's your pay. It's what you're owed. And then it's hubris, which is it's fated. Okay? And Savo, which I use for save. But it also could be if you know someone's lying and you're not coming forth and telling them you're a liar and you're saving it. Yeah, right. Okay. So not real pleasant on that front when it comes to the Aries point. Okay, so we got a lot of stuff there. Now, I'm going to look at the sun-moon axis quickly because I'm running like way crazy on time. So as I get to, it's 1408. There we, oh yeah. Let's go by the minute and get there to the minute. Okay, so look at this. Did we not talk about that Venus and Apollon? Did we not talk about the sun, moon as it's in aspects with the ascendant? Okay, it's all here. It's all here. There you go. Okay, so this lineup doesn't have to be discussed. We've already discussed it. But what we're doing is we're looking at anything that falls at 1408 cardinal, 2908 fixed, okay, and do a little check there. What else we'd be looking at then is we'd go, when you subtract 29 fixed, you come up with, because you would then take 2908, okay, and what you're going to be doing is you're going to be taking 2908, subtract 2230. Now when you subtract that 3, it's not a 10, it's a 6 for 60 seconds, and it comes to 36, 6, 38. Okay, that's how we do that. And yeah. And what do we have there, okay, is our health. What did I say about health? Okay, so there we are at health. And it equals Black Moon Lilith, but it's also the health of, this could be anything from single women to undocumented people to people who are poor. So it's, again, looking at the health care of those that maybe can't have health care, and how health care is a huge factor in what's going on right now with this country. Okay? So I know that that was a real factor. Okay, now I'm going to be looking at those points just discussed. All right, just discussed. Discussed, not disgusted. Okay, so now it's the red pen. Obviously the moon, because we're doing that one, where Crone shows up, the asteroid Crone, not Kronos, Crone. Now they do work very similarly, okay? They are about credibility. They are, doctors in some cases, And in this case, there's the doubt of credibility. It's retrograde. So a lot of times, if you had this, say, in a personal chart, it might be that you doubt your ability. But in this particular case, since we're looking at a larger picture, we are questioning authority figures. We are questioning their credibility. Okay? I can tell you that there's a lot of crap that we're chasing. So they're chasing crap. And I do believe this is done to distract, and because it creates chaos, which we saw on the ascendant, particularly in Washington, D.C. But it's also us dealing with our own psychological wounds. So as we go on these deep doom scrolls, or we're chasing the crap, and it's chasing the crap, I'm telling you as it is, Anubis is also referring to like the death, the destruction, the Anubis, and animals, well, they could play into it, but really, to me, Anubis is just kind of that death thing, okay? And again, we need to be, as Americans, I know we have to be concerned about our own economy, but we have to learn compassion, because our country does a lot of stuff in the world that is not good, like right now. Okay. Now, we used to do things that were good, but those things are not so good. And it's affected by the Saturn and Hades, as well as the Kronos ascendant. So, and it's the destruction of our systems. Kronos, Hades, Hades to Saturn is the destruction of our systems. And Kronos ascendant is telling you that it's the authorities destroying our country. Okay. Simply put, guys, I'm only reading English here, and I'm sorry if that's upsetting to some people. I will tell you this: it has to come down before we can rebuild it. So, I'm not as upset about it as maybe I should be. So as I move on, I come to the next set, which is look at the faces of people. Watch what as they speak. And know that the face is showing you the end of something. So even though it might be the facial, like how are people's faces reacting when things are happening, and especially health, because health is also in here. How does our health affect our face? And if we're coming to like the end of an illness, is the face better, or is it worse? So these are things to think about. Also, watch out for inner ear infections. This is dizzy, house, ascapula. I have an inner infection. Dizziness is caused, though, by sinuses. So vertigo, especially this time of year. I guess, depending where you live in the world, but in all honesty, I think everywhere is either going through spring or fall. And that brings allergies. That brings dizziness to some people, vertigo, Meniere's disease. When you can't get your breath, and again, you're thinking about allergies and things of this nature, it can cause dizziness. I say house because the ears are housed. Think of things that are housed, okay, like how they're put into organs. This is how we read medical astrology, a little bit of medical there. But look for stuff like that in this sun moon. It's almost like everything we're going through in the external world, which is way too much, is affecting us on the inside when it comes to our health. As a matter of fact, here I see, particularly as our money situation gets tighter and tighter, and it is gonna, okay, we can see that. Government shut down. Now way more people are not getting paychecks. So, and then they're gonna lay off people, okay? We're going to lose people through this because they're going to get hired in other situations where they can make more money, and I think they're going to go for it. So there's a lot of that. It's also prior is in on this. So one of the reasons why we are more aware of it is because maybe last year we had more money. Maybe last year we could do things we can't do this year. So Dolores is telling us that something is getting worse. Now, if you had a blood disorder, If you're, because Venus is blood, okay? Sugar issues, especially if you had them, prior conditions. Okay, please keep an eye on them because Dolores is an indication that those things could be getting worse. And again, when you're hit with all this stuff from every angle, it does affect you. And it does affect people that have blood issues or people that have sugar issues. So be aware. The prices are affecting everything. Price is running with the sun. Okay, so be aware of that. I also want to say that Sweeney's running through the moon, and I don't use Sweeney a lot, but it does deal with people who would decapitate a situation or who would sabotage a situation. Okay, so just be aware of that. And then you got Price with the sun. Okay, Fisher, which is lies, is running with Aragon and Arachne. Okay, so I think that the lies are complicating things, which is Arachne, but it's also self-destructive. Please be aware that you don't want to lie in situations because all you're going to be doing is self-destructing. Merlin with Bano kind of indicates that Merlin is the ability to actualize something on your own. And I really do believe we do have opportunities for that. But it's also referring to Bano, which is partnerships, marriages, signed contracts. And it could be that you're able to actualize new contracts or able to actualize that relationship or able to. So look for that too, because I think there's some good news there. Rockefeller's running with Astrea. And again, Schmidt's in the middle, and that's not necessarily a good thing. So it's almost, again, like we're going to see a lot of things that relate to money that are not good. That people are willing to do horrible things for the money. Horrible things for the money. Okay, bear that in mind. Okay, then we have running here that this is really interesting. Newt, which means at night, is running with wake. Now that could be literal. There could be a lot of people waking up in the night, but I think it's also people who are becoming woke through what they're hearing in the evening. So this could be anything. It could be becoming more aware of a situation within your own home or your own personal life, your own business. But it could also be just watching those, there we go, photographer, the pictures, the things we're seeing, and how that could be affecting us. So that's also going on. And it does seem like the night times are more effective for that kind of thing. Oya's running with Pallas, which means that this is like very erratic power plays, are going on in politics. And this is where people are telling you what you want to hear. This is an enabling aspect. You need to be very careful because Oya says it's all a power play. Okay, it's a power issue. And I am going to leave it there. Hopefully this was helpful, that you did gain something from this. This is a really interesting full moon chart. Full moon charts are not so much predictive as they're eye-opening, okay? And I think that particularly when I look at Oya and the Pallas, when I look at Rockefeller with Schmidt, Astrea, I believe we're going to start seeing things. And I think we, the people, are going to start seeing things. And that's what this chart is about. And it's about how we, the people, are being taken advantage of so the ultra-rich can get richer. And I ask myself, why would somebody want more money than they could ever spend in a lifetime? And yet we have a percentage of people where that's literally true, especially since those people are doing absolutely nothing for us. or the economy. Just to keep that in mind. Did want to see it. Yeah, Astrea's running with business. This stuff with money, okay, is going to be ongoing. All right, just so that you know that, and I think this is just about what's coming out is about money, the enabling, the politics, it's always about money. But with Rockefeller there, we're going to be seeing a lot. It's a real full moon. Open up your eyes and get ready. Get the popcorn out, as they say. With that said, thank you for watching this video. Thank you for supporting the channel. I'd love to hear from you if you have any comments. Again, I don't have SEO, so you're not going to hear me say share, comment, do all. But I would love to hear from you. And I do like seeing likes, but I have a very small crowd. So, and I know that. And I'm not sure when and if I'm going to change that. I might, but at this point, I'm Saturn Mercury. I'm holding my energy in. I think, like, you know, it's just, I don't want to deal with trolls. I don't want to deal with backlashes. So that's why I do what I do and the way that I do it. Because I'm a very private person. And I really am, ironically. So with that said, thank you. And until we meet again, I wish you all only happy reading.